All right, Peter, you're already working in here. That's good.
How you doing?
And so you actually do a lot of work in concrete, don't you?
We do quite a bit of work in concrete. We do everything from fire pits, bars, outside seating areas, a number of things. Lately, though, we're doing a lot of countertops for the homeowner.
Perfect, just what we need. And so how did we start with this countertop?
Well, this countertop, we actually got here earlier today, and we made a template of the countertops in the house. So what we do is we take this 1/4-inch luan,
Yeah.
and we run it around the perimeter of the countertop in the kitchen. So we have the faces of the countertop, we have the walls and the sides. Everywhere that these pieces intersect, we put a bead of hot glue and we stick them together.
Okay.
When we're done with that, we label all of it so that we know what things go where. We do this for every section of the countertop in the kitchen.
All right, and then we've got one of the sections here, that L-shaped section. This is the template. What's next?
Next is we're going to build a form, which is a mold for the concrete to be poured into. We're going to be building it right on top of this melamine here.
Okay.
Melamine is particle board with a thermofoil face on it. The reason why we use that is because it's smooth and waterproof.
All right.
Now, these are going to be the sides of our countertop. They're 2 inches thick. We're going to have a 2-inch thick countertop. We ripped these down earlier. And now I'm going to cut these to length. Okay, so we have all of our side pieces of our form cut. We have our template laying here on the melamine. Now we've taken the template and it's upside down. The reason why we do that is because we want to pour our countertop upside down so that the top surface of the countertop is as smooth as the melamine.
Right, okay.
Now we'll put the pieces tight to the template and hot glue them together.
How long does it take for the glue to set up?
The glue sets up in just a couple minutes at all.
And this is strong enough to hold back the wet weight of the concrete?
Yeah, this will easily hold it back.
So if you have several forms to make, can you reuse any of this melamine?
We can reuse the sheet, but we can't reuse the sides because it will absorb too much water and distort it. So wherever we have an inside corner, we miter the ends so that there's no exposed particle board.
So if you were to take a butt end and put it right in there, that exposed particle board would soak up the wet concrete.
That's right.
No good.
No good at all. So once we put this together, we put a bead of silicone in here to make sure that there's no water getting into that joint. Okay, so the glue's set, so now we can take out the template.
Okay, I'll just set this right over here.
And I'm going to run a bead of paste wax around the inside edge of the form. On the edge and in the corners, we have sharp angles. We're going to fill that with silicone.
So what does the silicone do for us?
Silicone's going to do two things. It's going to waterproof the bottom of the form, and it's going to ease the edge of the countertop.
So that will round it over a little bit more?
Yeah, we'll give the countertop a nice round over. Now we're going to take this tool, which is basically a piece of 3/8 plastic dowel cut on a 45. We use this tool to smooth out the corners. Good, now we just have to wait for the silicone to set up. So you remember that wax that I put on earlier? That's going to allow us to peel the excess silicone right off the form. So you see how easy this is?
Comes right off.
Do you think you guys can handle the rest of this?
I think so.
Sure.
All right, I'm going to go start mixing the concrete. Okay, we're going to now mix 2 batches of concrete. The first batch is going to contain sand, cement, a polymer that makes the concrete stronger, and a pigment that will give it a dark gray color. Well, that looks good.
So are we ready to pour this in the form?
Well, we're not going to pour the first batch, we're going to spray it.
Ah, okay.
I want to make sure the form is really clean, so I vacuumed it out, and now I'm going to wipe it down with acetone. This air sprayer that I'm using puts down a nice 1/4-inch layer of concrete that will give us a nice smooth surface for the countertop. Corey's putting down an aggregate, which is slightly larger pieces of stone that will show through when we polish the countertop. Our second batch of concrete is the same ingredients as the first batch. The only difference is we're adding these glass fibers that give the concrete all its strength. Here you go, Kevin.
Thank you.
Okay.
So what's the technique here?
We're going to pour it in, nice and gingerly, just over the piece. Okay. Just spread this right around. Nice thin layer, right over everything. So we're doing this in lifts of 3/8 of an inch. In between each lift, we're going to use these rollers to compact it. Okay, this looks good. What we're doing here with the compactors is we're pushing the air bubbles out of the concrete, so you have a nice dense layer.
How much pressure should we apply?
Just the light pressure, just like you're painting a wall. Okay, that looks good, guys. And now we're ready for the second lift.
Okay, same process?
Same process. Okay, now we compact it again. Okay, guys, that looks great. So we're not going to pour a 2-inch thick concrete countertop. It's not necessary. It's going to be way too heavy, and the concrete's strong enough without it. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to use this 1-inch rigid piece of foam to fill up the space. So let's set it in. So we're going to keep it 3 inches away from the face edges. And now we're going to use strapping to hold it in place. So that just gets screwed to the sides. Good, so that will keep the foam from floating up. Now we're just going to fill around the perimeter with the rest of the concrete.
All the way up to the top?
All the way up to the top, and you want to make sure you get it right underneath all those boards too. So Corey, take your finger and just push it right up underneath the boards.
Okay.
So we're going to let it sit for a couple of days to cure, and then we're going to come back and take it out of the form.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, it's been 3 days since we poured the concrete.
See what we've got.
Let's see how we did. So Pete, is that what you expected?
This is beautiful. This is just what we wanted.
Nice and hard, for sure.
Okay, just going to pull these right off. Now I'm going to grind the bottom of the countertop to be flush with the forms. I'm going to use this 4-inch grinder with a diamond impregnated cup wheel. Sometimes I leave the rigid foam in, but I think it's a cleaner look if we take it out. Just going to pry this out, get in underneath it. All right, now I'm going to just tap these sides and pop off the form. Here we go.
Actually comes off very easily, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Just pops right off. This bottom edge here can be a little bit sharp, so what I want to do is just a little bit of hand sanding to make it softer. That's good. It's looking good, guys. It's the moment of truth. We're going to separate the melamine from the concrete. You're going to drive in this putty knife and then push shims in right next to it, and that will pop it free. All right, guys, I'm going to lift it up. You're going to push it to me. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Hold it on its edge. Okay.
Okay, ready?
Ready.
Wow. This looks
What do you
great,
think?
Peter.
You like it?
I do.
All right, guys. So you remember when Corey sprinkled that aggregate into the form?
Yep.
Well, that's right now is buried below the surface here. So I'm going to use a 4-inch wet grinder with a diamond pad on it to reveal it. All right? This grinder uses water. It's a lot faster than dry grinding, and it keeps down all the dust. So we're all done with the wet grinding, and you can see that it exposed some of the aggregate in here.
I love the way that looks.
And you can also see some of the glass fibers. Now, the other thing that the wet grinding did was it exposed these holes in here. These were air bubbles that were in the concrete. So I've mixed up some slurry. Slurry is basically the concrete that we mixed up the other day, but with no sand or fibers in it. So we just put it on here, and you smush it in.
Really?
So here you go.
Okay, Corey, here's a blob for you.
Thanks, Kevin.
You want to cover the whole surface, even if there's no holes there.
Well, it's a lot more hands-on than just ordering up some granite slabs, isn't it, Corey?
Yes, but that's all right with me. Peter, does it need to be smooth?
No, it's just easier when you go to sand it if it's smooth. So in the smaller piece here, the slurry's already cured. So we're just going to use a regular random orbit sander with 80 grit sandpaper on it and sand it right off. I'll change the paper to 100 grit, then to 220 grit to get a smoother surface.
Very smooth.
So now the surface is ready for sealer. The sealer protects the surface from water and stains. This is a great sealer for homeowners. It's very easy to apply, and you need to do it just about every year. Dries in about 10 minutes. We got to do about 8 coats on this though.
Small one.
Ready.
Ready to push?
Ready. Look at that. Nice. Perfect.
Looks great.
Great, let's get the other 2 pieces.
These are beautiful.
Good. Right up there is nice. Okay.
All right, guys, all I got to do is lift up the countertops a few inches, put some construction adhesive on the cabinets, we'll drop them down, they'll be all set.
Great. And I'll take care of the sink and the backsplash later on.
All right. So, Corey, what do you think? Still a do-it-yourself project or not?
Well, it's a lot of work, and you have to know what you're doing, but it looks amazing. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, Peter, really nice job.
Thanks.
Boy, those countertops really transformed that kitchen.
Yeah, Corey was absolutely thrilled. And in his case, he chose what I would call sort of a predictable look. I mean, that's
Yeah.
to say that he actually used a gray color here for the concrete. He let the aggregate show through.
Sure.
But just because you're dealing with concrete, it doesn't mean it has to look that way. And here's a perfect example. This one was made using white cement, and they sprayed it into the mold so that you don't see any of the aggregate, and then they polished it and gave it this high sheen.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
How was this one made?
Well, this one was actually poured into the mold, so you do see the aggregate. There's the sand, and then there are these glass fibers that sort of show through once it's been ground down.
Almost looks like fossils.
Yeah, a little organic look. This guy wanted some color, so they added glass, and you can see the sea glass here and some white glass right there. So
I like
that's
that
a
one.
distinctive look.
Yeah.
I love this one the best, though. This guy actually found some shells on the beach near his house, put them in there, and look at the results.
From the seashore.
But look at this one right here. How do they do that?
Well, this one was made with a silicone mold that they actually put into the form so that when you take it out, you've got all that great texture.
I see. Then the cement won't stick to the silicone.
Right.
Pretty cool.
When working with concrete, your options are pretty much limitless.
A lot of choices.
Yeah.
Nice job, Kip.
Thanks.